I don't care what anyone says. Nelson did nothing wrong. He was simply dealt a bad hand. His poor life circumstances and situation are what molded his path and his eventual downfall. He was but a cog in a machine. With the system condemning him to failure, can you really blame him for some of his less than respectable actions? Almost everything Nelson did leading up to the events of Van Houten Rises, Part 1, was entirely out of his hands, just the universe working against him. Sure, killing Lisa was a truly reprehensible thing to do. This singular action really is what tipped over the metaphorical house of cards. But people always seem to neglect the fact that Kearney pulled the trigger without any input from Nelson. And while some might say that Nelson definitely could have stopped it, at that point he was so far gone mentally that he probably really couldn't care about what happened next. Not even yet to mention that Lisa's death was very necessary for the amelioration of mankind. He had gone through a true honest-to-God crucible at that point. With all of the things that occurred to him in his life, it's no wonder he adopted such a nihilistic and apathetic attitude when confronting such situations. He shut himself off from emotions to escape the pain that inevitably waited for him behind every corner. If he had tried to maintain the same attitude of starry-eyed boy he once was, he would have been wasted ages ago. Nelson did what he needed to do to survive. If anything, that's commendable, especially with the world of fuck he was raised in. He worked hard for everything in his life, and time again, people shit all over him. And time again, he would fail because of forces beyond his power. Did Van Houten or the Simpsons deserve what came to them? Of course not. If anything, they were victims of the very same system that did Nelson wrong so many times. Their fate an unfortunate byproduct of the weight caused by Nelson's yearning for a better future. The heist would have gotten Nilsson out of the shithole that was Springfield, and who cares if a couple fat cat bankers lost a few grand and a dozen or so client. Barely a dent in their paycheck, and with plenty left for Nelson and his gang to escape their past. But alas, the right person in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. With Lisa's death, Van Houten's and Muntz's fates were forever intertwined. With Nelson on a train with a one-way ticket to destruction, whether he defeats Milhouse or not. And now consider this. As they stood on the precipice at the end of the world, the final battle raged on, and Nelson allowed Milhouse to defeat him. Everyone knows Nelson could have easily defeated Killhouse at any point in the final fight, and yet he still allowed himself to be found. Why? Because Nelson knew that only two things could have happened. Either he could have destroyed Milhouse and the world would have died with him, or he lets Milhouse defeat him and allows the world another chance. Nelson sacrificed himself for the greater good. Also consider that Nelson is why Milhouse became as powerful as he did. He steeled his resolve, and as a result, turned him into a better person, and enabled him to be able to rescue the world from the encroaching entropy that is the greed and wrath of those of the likes of Mr. Burns and his cronies, and allowed him to repair it into something better than it was before. Without Nelson's action, the world would have just continued on the path it was on and deteriorated even further into the tsunami of despair. When you really think about it, Nelson inadvertently saved the world through his actions. Nelson's dumpster fire of a life was necessary for the betterment of mankind. While he served to be the antagonist, I believe that he really was the true hero all along. Despite all this, Milhouse is still not a meme.